Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Don Buckstein in Madison, Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with another session of Coffee with Dr. Buckstein. This is where I have a number of my associates and friends around the world come and we just chat about what they're doing, their ideas about a specific uh, area of allergy, clinical immunology, asthma, and respiratory disease. And today we have on the line again Russ Setapane, good friend and colleague from Providence, Rhode Island. Russ is the clinical professor of medicine at Albert School of Medicine, Brown University. He's also the associate editor with the chief editor, Joe Belante, of Allergy Asthma Proceedings, excellent clinical journal. And this journal, I think, takes a basic science, evidence-based approach and gives you very practical articles that you can do to day-to-day practice. And we're going to talk about the current issue, which I've had the pleasure of already viewing with Russ today. Hello, Russ, and hopefully you have your coffee all ready to go and we can talk a little bit about this month's journal.
Absolutely, Don. I'm so glad to be here. We've got the March issue, the March 2019 issue of the Proceedings. We're in our 40th year of publication, and we have a very, as you point out, very practical issue with some very relevant information to those physicians who are in practice for allergy immunology. We hope that this issue will help them provide better care to their patients. It's been my pleasure to work with Dr. Joseph Belante since 2004. The editor-in-chief of the journal, and we've put together a nice editorial describing, overviewing the entire issue, which is available for free, with a open access type of thing. So if you want to get a quick overview of what's in this issue, you can click on the link for the editorial. And also, of course, we're going to just review some of the highlights of the issue today.
Yeah, I know Dr. Belante wrote an excellent kind of editorial, basic science review of what I think is one of the more fascinating areas, and that's epigenetics. I'm interested in epigenetics from a very personal view. I have identical twin sons. One has rheumatoid arthritis, the other one has ulcerative colitis, obviously two different immunologic diseases. And I think that demonstrates that it's both an interplay of genetics and then what comes during gestation and right after birth that has a lot to do with the clinical expression and the phenotype of different allergic immunologic diseases. And I really like the way Joe explained it. And maybe you want to review some of the principles that Joe kind of elaborated on in his discussion of epigenetics.
Yeah, Joe takes us right back to the beginning of when epigenetics, the term was coined back in 1957 by the geneticist Comrade Waddington, who described the process by which genotype brings about the phenotype. And as we were, at that era where we scientists was learning about the significance of DNA, it was thought all you needed to do was find out if somebody had a gene, and that would mean they would have the condition. So it turned out the gene is just a setup. Something else has to turn it on, and that's where the environment comes into play, as Dr. Belante points out, through a process called epigenetics, and he talks about the common mechanisms that can lead to this process of turning genes on and off, and he really focuses on the one of the particular processes, the methylation, DNA methylation, how DNA methylation expresses sort of like an on-off switch to turn on or off certain genes.
Yeah, and then you follow that basic science up with just a wonderful article, a review of atopic dermatitis. And I know you've had previous articles that give you the clinical data on new forms of therapy, biologic therapies that really we use in atopic dermatitis now. But this follows the epigenetics where we get to have a full view with Dr. Kim and Dr. Leong at National Jewish Hospital of really the basic science leading to some new approaches to the treatment of children and adults with atopic dermatitis.
Yes, we're fortunate to have a review article from Doctors Kim and Dr. Leong from the National Jewish Health Center. And this was actually originally was a live presentation that was presented at the Eastern Allergy Conference in June of last year. And it went over so well that Dr. Leong decided to go ahead and to write a review article. And he really does ties in nicely with the article by Dr. Belanti, in that there's a discussion of how environmental exposures in these patients induces the epigenetic changes. And they talk about how the DNA may be modified and the role of microRNA mediated post-transcriptional regulation that occurs that leads to the development of atopic dermatitis. And this is important for us to understand, because not only is this a very common condition, and probably the most common chronic inflammatory skin condition in the world, but also, it affects up to 12% of children and close to 8% of adults. But it's a condition that if we understand it better, we can develop more precise therapies directed at the pathophysiology that leads to its development.
Yeah, I really liked that they kind of wrap it all together. They come out at the end with some statements about something we've been very interested in a clinic that we have in a big OBGYN department. We try to do counseling of women with severe allergic disease and asthma, concerning especially the first atopic symptom most of these babies experience, and that is atopic dermatitis. And that's implicated, of course, in food allergy and as a precursor to many atopic type of problems. And I love that they discussed the role of barrier function, using emollients at birth to kind of enhance that barrier function, and the role of maybe even probiotics in kind of setting the stage for dealing with some of the epigenetics that may occur in atopic dermatitis.
Mm-hmm.